Good morning to everyone. Today we are going to learn something more regarding the electromotive force. So, first of all, we will try to learn about how we can predict the cell EMF. In last class, we have learned about how we can predict the or how we can determine the half cell EMF. So today we will learn how we can determine or how we can predict what will be the electromotive force for a full cell. Then we will learn about the predicting the feasibility of a reaction. That means if there is a reaction system, that means some components, you may think that either their reaction will happen or not. If happens, then how much energy can be released or how much energy we may need to supply. And then we will learn about the Faraday's laws of electrolysis. That is very important law. That means how much electricity, after passing how much electricity, how much electrode will be damaged or how much some material will be deposited onto the electrode. Then we will learn about some parameter, that is electrochemical equivalent. That is the parameter of an element or of a component or a compound. So we will learn from the law of electrolysis. We will try to understand what is the electrochemical equivalent from the first law. Then we will learn the importance of first and second law of electrolysis. We have two different laws and I will discuss about that. And then if I have some time, I will show you one or two mathematical problems related to the Faraday electrolysis law. So let's start from the beginning, the predicting the cell EMF. So you have learned how we can determine the half cell EMF in last class by using some standard reference electrode. In that case, we have used hydrogen electrode. Hydrogen electrode has the electromotive force by EMF is 0 volt. So both side we can use either hydrogen electrode as a cathode or anode. So depending on the direction or side, which side we are using the hydrogen electrode, we will get some potential to the unknown cell. That means unknown electrode, we will prepare a cell out of hydrogen electrode and some unknown electrode, and then we will try to measure the EMF of the cell using some voltmeter. In that case, we will get the exact value of the cell EMF just in respect of the unknown electrode, because the known electrode or reference electrode, hydrogen electrode, has the EMF value 0. Therefore we will get the observed value which is exactly equal to the unknown electrode. Now how we can predict or how we can get the idea regarding what can be the cell EMF if you prepare or if you create a cell out of two different components and maybe same or different electrolyte. The standard EMF E0 of a cell is the standard reduction potential of the right hand side electrode. We have two different electrodes in a cell, cathode, anode, and we keep it in the left side and right side. So just consider the right hand side electrode as cathode. So we will think about or we can predict the cell EMF considering just only one property of two different electrodes. The right hand, that means the reduction potential of the right hand electrode minus the left hand standard reduction potential of the left hand electrode anode. That means you have two electrodes and then you need to find out the reduction potential of the right hand electrode. You will get it from the table I will show you here. So if you have some electrodes, then you can find out the reduction potential of corresponding electrode. So if you use some copper electrode, in that case you will get the reduction potential for copper 2 plus 2 electron. That means it will give 0.34 electron volt. Sorry, volt, not electron volt. So copper has two copper can get just 0.34 electron 0.34 volt. Every time I am saying electron volt because in last 8 or 9 years I have worked with all different types of energy in terms of electron volt. That means we are giving some energy as light, so I always try to use, that is the ionization potential or whatever, in terms of electron volt. So I am going to tell all of the words as electron volt, but actually here it should be just volt, not electron volt. So if you know what are the electrodes are used in the cell, then you can easily predict the cell EMF by considering which electrode has been used as cathode and which electrode has been used as anode. So here are the mostly usable electrodes reduction potential. People have find out the reduction potential for most of the usable electrodes, and here you can see fluorine getting 2 electron to become fluoride, and it has the most uh, available voltage or potential 2.87. But nowadays we have even better quality electrodes, but this is not given in this table. Lithium ion or something this like this, so that can have even better electrode sorry EMF, and it can last for a long time. So that types of electrode should be included here, but as long as we have this mass, so just if you have a cell made of two different electrode, you need to find out the reduction potential of the electrodes from this table, and then you can use the equation. That means the reduction potential of the right hand electrode or cathode minus the standard reduction potential of the left hand electrode. Actually we have two different types of arrangement here. Here you have electrode and ion, and here ion and electrode. These are arranged in opposite way. That means here if the oxidation happens, reduction will happen here. That means opposite way. Just but one thing, when you want to calculate the cell EMF, both we have used the reduction potential. That means the cell EMF, the standard cell EMF or standard EMF E naught of a cell is the standard reduction potential of right hand electrode. Here we are using the standard reduction potential of the right hand electrode cathode minus the standard reduction potential of the left hand electrode. That means both the electrodes, for both electrodes we are considering as reduction, because most of the time ions, here if there is some ion, then the ion try to get electron, therefore we are considering like this way. Just if you have something opposite, that means if you have some zinc, sorry, lead, and then you need to think about opposite way. So here the reduction potential of lead is minus 0.13. In that case you need to think about the oxidation potential of lead is 0.13, not the negative, because this is the reduction potential. So if you think about oxidation potential, in that case you need to remove the minus sign. So to find out the cell EMF, we are using the, it is we are considering just to remember easily which one should be oxidation, which one should be reduction, either from the cathode or left side, right side. So we are avoiding both the confusion. Just we are using the reduction potential of left hand electrode right hand electrode first minus the reduction potential of the left hand electrode. So if we consider this is our left hand electrode and this is right hand electrode, in that case we will find out the cell EMF E cell equal E naught cell, that means a standard electrode of the cell, a standard EMF of cell equal E naught right minus E naught left, or here we have mentioned cathode potential, that means reduction potential at cathode minus the reduction potential at anode. So if we consider the cell diagram is like this way, zinc solid, that means this is the electrode and this is the electrolyte, zinc ion and silver. If this is the cell diagram, by using the E naught values from the table we will find out. So here you can see, so E naught R minus E naught L. So this is our right hand electrode. So right hand electrode or right hand side, so silver ion. Now let us find out the EMF value for silver ion reduction potential. What is this? This is silver ion, silver plus electron, it is gaining forming silver ion solid. So the electrode potential for silver is 0.80. Okay, so we have put the value for 0.80 and this is our left side electrode or cathode. So what is the reduction potential for zinc 2 plus? In that case, let's see how much it is. Zinc 2 plus, we have, this is the zinc 2 plus. So this is the reduction potential for zinc is minus 0.76. So minus 0.76. So the reduction potential at the left hand electrode is minus 0.76. So our equation is right hand electrode minus left hand electrode, that means EMF of right hand electrode minus EMF of left hand electrode. So it was 0.80 minus, this is minus, and then from the table we have minus 0.76. So overall we are getting 1.563 electron volt. So if you have a galvanic cell or the cell made of these types of electrode and electrolyte, in that case you will get the potential difference around 1.563 volt or approximate 1.5 volt. So by this way we can easily find out the cell EMF, or we can easily predict the cell EMF depending on what types of electrode and electrolytes are used in the preparation of the cell. Now let's see predicting feasibility of a reaction. If you have here we have some cell, actually that is a kind of chemical reaction. That means if the reaction proceeds spontaneously, then we will get some electricity or we will get some current out of the reaction. But if the reaction will happen or not, just let us consider the feasibility of a redox reaction can be predicted with the help of the electrochemical series. This is our electrochemical series. So can be predicted with the help of the electrochemical series the net EMF of the cell reaction. So if you generate a cell out of two different electrodes, in that case if the cell EMF value is positive, that means greater than 0, in that case you will think that the reaction will happen or the cell will work to produce some energy. And if the cell EMF is less than 0, in that case the reaction will not proceed or it will not proceed by itself. So to happen the reaction you need to supply electricity from outside. So Just let's see. The feasibility of a redox reaction can be predicted with the help of the electrochemical series. The net EMF of the cell reaction E cell can be calculated from the expression E naught cell equal E naught cathode minus E naught anode. So we have used in the previous slide that E naught cell equal E naught cathode minus E naught anode. So if you find out that the E naught cell, that means if you generate a cell out of two different electrodes, and if you find out that the E naught cell is greater than 0 or positive, then the reaction is feasible, and E naught cell is negative, then the reaction is not feasible. That means the reaction will not happen by itself, or it is a non-spontaneous process. So to happen a reaction which is not spontaneous, you need to supply some energy from outside. That means that will be electrolysis. So just if you have a reaction that will produce electricity, that is galvanic cell or something electrochemical, and just electrolytic, that means we need to perform some we need to supply some electricity to happen the reaction. So if you know the value of the E naught cell, then you can easily consider that the reaction will happen or not. So if it is the value is positive, then reaction will happen, that means feasible. And if the reaction is not, if the cell is negative, E naught cell is negative, you will find out the reaction will not happen. Now we will learn about the Faraday's laws of electrolysis. Here you can see an electrolytic cell. Here we have given some electricity out of the source. So this is our battery, a combination of many cells, or you can apply from the directly you can apply from the electricity or electric line. So that is the source of some energy. Now we have taken some electrolyte and some electrode depth into the electrolyte. Now when you supply some electricity through the electrode and electrolyte, when you supply some electricity through the electrodes, then some of the electrode will reduce in size, or some of the electrode will decompose, and some of the electrode will gain in size. That means here you can see this sodium ion is attacking to the cathode, and it is joining to increase the size of the cathode. That means some of the sodium ion is depositing to this electrode. That means it is forming as a sodium metal. That means by supplying some electricity, some electrode is decomposing and some electrode is gaining. That means something is decomposing and something is gaining to the electrode. Now what would be the mass of the deposited metal or electrode or gaining in the electrode? That means if you supply some electricity through this, and then some of the metal will deposit to this electrode. So how much? Just you can know by the formula of Faraday's discovered, or Michael Faraday has discovered the relation between how much metal or how much amount substance will be deposited after how much electricity is supplied. That means amount of substance deposited M is directly proportional to the electricity supplied through the electrode or electrolyte. So Michael Faraday discovered the relationship between the amounts of products liberated at the electrodes and quantity of the electricity used in the process. That means how much substance will be deposited to the electrode is directly related to the amount of electricity supplied to the electrolyte. And also, if you have several components, or if you want to compare with several electrolytes with supplying same electricity. Now here you have sodium chloride, that means sodium ion and chloride ion. Now if you want to change the electrolyte and electrode, magnesium chloride or magnesium sulfate, something like this, in that case, if you supply same amount of electricity through the electrolyte, in that case how much will be deposited? That is also very related to the what are the materials. Material has a specific property that is known as chemical equivalent. That means that is different for each material, but that is always constant for a certain metal or certain component. So if two electrolytes, if Q are same, that means if you supply same amount of electricity from the source through the electrolyte, then amount of substance deposited or liberated at the electrode will be related to the chemical equivalent. Okay, now let's see what the first law and second law says. The amount of a given product liberated at an electrode during the electrolysis is directly proportional to the quantity of electricity which passes through the electrolyte solution. Already I have mentioned that if you supply some electricity through the electrolyte, in that case the amount of substance deposited or amount of substance liberated, so that is directly proportional to the amount of electricity supplied through the electrolyte. That means if you supply more electricity, you will get more deposited or more liberated from this electrode. So just depending on how much electricity you are supplying, that is related to the amount of substance deposited. So just more electricity, more amount will be deposited. That is very simple. Okay, now again another thing for second law. When the same quantity of electricity passes through solutions of different electrolytes, I have mentioned that if we have several electrolytes but we want to supply same energy, that means same electricity, not same energy, same electricity or same amount of potential difference, in that case the amount of substance liberated at the electrode will be directly related or proportional to the chemical equivalent of that component or electrolyte. When the same quantity of electricity passes through the solutions of different electrolytes, the amount of the substances liberated at the electrodes are directly proportional to the chemical equivalence. So now you may have the question, what is the chemical equivalent? Let's learn what is the chemical equivalent. Actually, in a broad sense, you can have the idea two different metal or two different ion have different capacity to gain or lose electrons. Actually, in terms of chemical equivalent, you can consider how fast or how slow the metal ion or the metal can gain electron or lose electron. Actually, that is in one sense you can consider that the chemical equivalent. That means if you want to compare several metal, in that case you need to have some standard, as like for comparing the valency. Just we always try to consider the valency of hydrogen is 1. That means now we compare for all other elements or for other atoms, just comparing how much hydrogen can be mm, joined or combined, or how much hydrogen can be liberated. So we consider that is the valency of that element. Similarly, if we want to compare the capacity of different metal ions or different ions, in that case we need to have some standard. We have set that standard like this way. If m is the mass of the substance in grams deposited on electrode by passing q coulomb of electricity, then m is proportional to q. Already I have mentioned that if some amount q amount or q coulomb of electricity is passing through the electrolyte and m amount of substance is deposited in the electrode, in that case m is directly proportional to q. That comes from the first law. Here you can see the amount of substance which the amount of the given product liberated at an electrode during the electrolysis is directly proportional. That means just we will use the proportional sign. So directly proportional to the quantity of electricity which passes through the electrolyte solution. Okay, so now we are getting m is proportional to q, but we know q equal it. That means q equal it. Q is the in coulomb how much charge is supplying. So that is supply, that means amount of current multiplied by time. So for how long time the current is supplying, that would be the total amount of charge q coulomb electricity by passing q coulomb electricity. So that is the current I multiplied by t. So if you supply for a long time, then you can have more electricity, and if you pass very short time, in that case you can have very less amount of electricity. That means the total or overall charge or electricity will be very less. So I into t, q equal I into t. So we can write down m proportional to q, that means m proportional to it. So here you can see where I is the strength of current of the in amperes and t is the time in second for which the current has been passed. Therefore m is proportional to I into t. Now if you want to remove the proportionality sign, you need to multiply with some constant. So just we have taken the proportionality sign and we are applying or we are multiplying with some proportionality constant g or z, whatever. So now from this equation, that is considered as the chemical equivalent or electrochemical equivalent. That is the constant. Now we can define the proportionality constant or electrochemical equivalent from this equation. If you consider that the amount of substance deposited is 1 gram, or where Z is the constant known as electrochemical equivalent of the substance, if I equal 1 ampere and T equal 1 second and then M equal Z. That means if you put two components I equal 1 ampere and T equal 1 second, that means then M equal G or G equal M we can consider. So from that approximation we can get the idea about the chemical equivalent, or we can define the chemical equivalent. That means if you supply 1 ampere of electricity or 1 ampere of current for 1 second through an electrolyte, then how much amount of substance will be deposited at the electrode? That is known as the chemical equivalent of that component. Understand? If you supply 1 ampere, from this equation you can see easily, if you supply 1 ampere of current or 1 ampere of electricity for 1 second, then how much amount of substance will be deposited at the electrode? is considered as the electrochemical equivalent for that component or electrolyte. So the electrochemical equivalent is the amount of a substance deposited by 1 ampere current passing by for 1 second. Just what I have mentioned here, that is the exact definition. If you pass 1 ampere of current for 1 second through an electrolyte, so the amount of substance deposited in the electrode is equal to the chemical equivalent or electrochemical equivalent of that electrolyte. Okay, then what are the importance of first law of thermodynamics? Sorry, electrolysis, not thermodynamics. So with the help of first law of electrolysis, we are able to calculate the value of electrochemical equivalents of different substances. That means if you supply 1 ampere of current for 1 second with different types of electrolytes, in that case you can find out how much amount of substance will be deposited at the electrode. That is considered as the electrochemical equivalent of that element. So from the first law we can easily understand, or we can easily estimate the chemical equivalent for different elements from the first law, because we have used only the first law from here. So we don't need to go to the second law or any other thing. Just the amount of substance deposited in the electrode is directly proportional to the current or the electricity passing through the electrolyte. So from that equation we can find out the electrochemical equivalence. The value of electrochemical equivalence of different substances can be measured or approximated or calculated from the first law of electrolysis. The masses of different substances produced by passing a known quantity of electricity through their solutions. So from the first law we also have the idea, or we can know, if you pass a certain amount of electricity for a specific period of time, in that case without measuring the amount you can get how much substance will be deposited on that electrode. So if you know how much what is the electrode or electrolyte, and how much electricity for how long has been passed through the electrode, just you can get from this equation. That means the m equals zit. By using this formula you can easily find out how much substance will be deposited at the electrode, just using this formula. So you don't need to measure the amount. That means if you want to do some electrolysis over this, that means if you want to do some electrolysis over these types of substance, then you need to know what the surface layer, that means how thick you want. So actually you have that the substance, and you want to give a coating over this. So if you use this as electrode and some of the electrolyte you have, so you know, if you have the surface coating very thin layer, maybe 1 gram or 0.1 gram, 0.1 gram of the electrolyte need to be deposited over that. So to deposit 0.1 gram of the substance or electrolyte to that electrode, how much electricity for how long time you need to pass, if you can calculate, then you can use. Otherwise if you do not know how much electricity is passing and what would be the deposition rate, In that case, just you put a substance, that means let us consider for a spoon, you want to make a coating over the spoon of iron. Now if you put the coating, that means you have put the spoon in the electrolyte for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. In that case, the spoon became just like a dumbbell. It has nothing to with the no in use for the spoon. So just you need to think how much deposition I need, and for that how much current and for how long time I need to pass the electricity. So by knowing this, the formula of Faraday's electrolysis, you can find out how much electricity for how long time is required to put or to deposit a specific amount of substance on a certain substance. Now, what are the importance of second law of electrolysis? The second law of electrolysis helps to calculate the equivalent weights of metals. So, for any metal, what are the equivalent weights? Just if you know certain parameters, what we have mentioned, that chemical equivalent, that means if you supply 1 ampere of current for 1 second, how much substance will be deposited? That is our chemical equivalent. So now you can find out the chemical equivalent using this law. And the unit of electric charge, the unit of electric charge, that means if you know the chemical equivalent from this equation, so you can get gram and then ampere, then this is second. So now if you do not know the unit for this current, then you can find out the unit for this one, m divided by z divided by t. In that case you can easily find out the unit of electric charge. The Avogadro's number, that means Avogadro's number, the number of moles in, sorry, number of particles in 1 mole, that is the Avogadro's number. So from this law we can find out the Avogadro's number also. Now we will see very simple mathematical problems regarding the Faraday's law. Let us consider 0.1978 gram of copper is deposited by current of 0.2 ampere in 50 minutes. What is the electrochemical equivalent of the copper? That means you are asked to find out the J or Z, G or Z, that means electrochemical equivalent of copper. So you have given the amount of substance, that means M in gram, current 0.2 ampere, and time T 50 minutes, that means 50 into 60 seconds. So just find out from that equation, T equal 50 minutes, 50 equal 50 into 60, I equal 0.2 ampere, quantity of electricity used, Q equal IT, 0.2 multiplied by 15 to 60 coulombs, amount of copper deposited in by 600 coulombs, so 0.1978, amount of copper deposited by 1 coulomb, that means Z, just we need to find out Z, 0.1978, just that is the our result. So if you use directly this equation, M equal ZIT, that is also okay, just you don't need to go to the Q. Just use this because we already have the I, T, M, all of them. So directly we can find out the value of Z. Z equal M by I into T. So that will give you the exact result what you are looking for. And I have another mathematical problem that is also similar. What current strength in amperes will be required to liberate 10 gram of iodine from potassium iodide solution in 1 hour? That means what current, that means you need to find out the amount of current I. So we know M equals ZIT, So use the formula. So here you can see the amount is 10 gram. So 10 gram, that means m equal 10, and for 1 hour, time t equal 1 hour, that means 60 into 60 seconds, that means 3600 seconds. So and uh, liberate 10 gram. Oh, one thing, you need to find out the chemical equivalent also. What current strength is in amperes will be required to liberate 10 gram of iodine from potassium iodide solution in 1 hour. So 127, the number is liberated by that coulomb. So 10 gram of iodine is liberated by that coulomb. So we are looking for the Z, because we do not have the value of Z. So we need to find out the value of Z from here. Let the current strength should be I, so we need to find out the value of I. So from that equation, finally you can find out I equal Q by T. That is very simple. So you will get the 2.11 ampere. So that is the end of today's class. If you have any question or comment regarding this, then you are welcome.